Hello everyone, welcome back to Bodhi Buddhism community. My name's Matt Osborne and I'd just like to share some thoughts, a few words about Vesak Day for this year. For those of you who are old friends of Bodhi Buddhism, you'll be thinking it's been a long time since we've had any classes like this. I'd like to apologize for that. As you might notice from the background behind me, I'm in a new location and I'm a long way away from where I was before, so I've left Taiwan. I'm now here in the UK in Oxford, and with a new job, and of course under the conditions of the pandemic, it's just sort of been taking up a lot of my time. But due to a very kind invitation from a friend, here I am today to just share a few thoughts about Vesak Day. Vesak Day is the most important holiday or festival or day of the year for Buddhists and for the Buddhist calendar. It does vary quite a bit between different traditions, what month and what day, and actually what it's sort of commemorating. So in some traditions, Vesak Day isn't just the Buddha's birthday, it's also his renunciation, his awakening, and also his parinirvana. And some other traditions, they have different days for each of these key events in the Buddha's life. The term itself, Vesak Day, actually just comes from the Indian name, the Sanskrit name for the month in which this took place. This is Vesak. But now it's kind of taken on a whole sort of meaning of its own, and of course it was based on the lunar calendar. But all these things aside, I think all these differences, and someone was actually asking me via the Bodhi Tree page on Facebook just the other day about some of these differences, and there's a lot of Buddhist history in there, but that's not what I want to talk about today. I just want to really focus in on the Buddha and the life of the Buddha, and how we can see this as like an inspiration and a model for our own spiritual path and our own religious life. And I'd like to talk about this, over a couple of the key events in the Buddha's life. So the first one, of course, is the Buddha's birth. Now I'm sure you all know the stories, or if you haven't heard the stories, definitely should, find yourself a good book about the Buddha's life, because it's really inspiring. So, many miraculous events, and there's his mother's dream of the six-tusked white elephant, and all these things. And after he's born, we have all these things, he can immediately walk and talk, and, he has his future predicted of him by these, wise men of ancient India, and this includes also this idea that he'll either be a great religious leader or a great secular leader. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, what does that have to do with me? And I think often that starting point we think like, okay, well, that's, what inspiration am I supposed to draw from that? Unless there are some princes and princesses out there listening to this little talk, probably we're feeling it's a bit dissociated. But I think there still is something that can be said here. The Buddha coming into this world and the particular life that he took, the particular rebirth, that particular family, that particular place and time, we're told, that this is due to the results of his own karma, his own actions, and particularly, of course, his own meritorious actions. He has this sort of great merit to be reborn in a particular place, particular time, where everything seems like really wonderful and kind of perfect, as it were. And this is definitely worth reflecting on for ourselves, that where we are in life, we've come into this world, and our mother, our father, our siblings, the environment around us, the country where we are, all those circumstances are also due to our own karma. And that might sound a bit kind of, well, okay, that's what it is, so what? But even the ability to just kind of accept, like, okay, here we are, this is where I am in this lifetime, and this is where I've got to start from. It's in this present lifetime that I've got to, face the world reflect on myself, reflect on what I'm doing in this world, rather than be imagining, oh, if I was somewhere else, if I was born somewhere else, or I was in a different, environment or a different place, or this kind of thing. So it helps us to get over the sort of like fantasy thinking or wishful thinking of wanting to be somewhere else. If I was somewhere else, I'd be able to practice Buddhism better. Nope. It's right here, right now. This is the only place that we can practice. After the Buddha's birth, we've got many stories about his childhood. Actually, there's not that many of them. There's definitely a few. But then the next big event for the Buddha's life, of course, is, when he knows he's going to grow up to be he's going to, in the future, become the king, and he wants to see the populace that he'll rule over. And he asks his charioteer, he sort of has to convince his father to let him do it, but he, has his charioteer take him around the four gates of the city, and he sees the four sights, right? So it's a really powerful, important part of the story. He sees the old person, the diseased person, the dead person, the corpse, and on seeing these first three, he's shocked by oh, this is life. We're all gonna grow old and become ill and die. And then the fourth sight, where he sees the holy man, this religious practitioner, and he asks, well, what's that person doing? And his charioteer explains to him that this is somebody who's trying to find a way out of the cycle of birth and death. Now, it's a real powerful kind of story and powerful idea. Now, for our own lives, it might not be anything quite like that, but let's just sort of reframe that and sort of saying it's when we see a problem, that problem might be a problem that's already occurring to us, or it could be a problem that we're seeing that other people are experiencing, and our reaction and response to that problem. And that can, I think, again, if we take the Buddha's life as sort of, let's take the spirit and the gist out of it, that can be really a broad range of different things that we're experiencing. It could be from something as sort of broad as you see what climate change is doing to some particular part of the world and reflecting the reasons why it's happening there. Those same causes and conditions are also applying to where I'm living now and where other people are living, in fact the whole planet. It's also going to bring about some really drastic effects upon our lives as well. We need to do something about it and trying to find a solution, right? So the first three sites are seeing very clearly the problem, and then the fourth one is seeing a potential solution. So climate change would be one example, but it can also be something very personal. It could be something like, maybe somebody who has a family member or a friend who maybe drinks too much. Maybe they're alcoholic. Maybe they abuse some other kind of drugs, and seeing the damage that does to their lives physically and emotionally, and in terms of their social connectedness or lack thereof. And we might think, this is a problem. There needs to be some kind of solution. I need to avoid that problem, or the same fate is going to happen to me as well. These are just two examples. There can be lots of other things as well. When we start to see what's coming to us, shall we say, that there's going to be some trials and challenges that we're going to have to face through our own action, that have come about because of our own actions, we need to find some kind of solution to it. So then we go into the next phase after he sees these four sights, and then there's his renunciation, right? So I know the story, sort of, in the classical account, sort of says farewell to his wife and child, and he's out of the palace, jumps over the city walls on his horse, rides off. It's not into the sunset, it's probably rides off into the sunrise, because he does it at night. Cuts off his hair and takes off his princely robes and jewelry and puts on these it's basically coarse cloth, and takes up the garb and the appearance of an ascetic. Now again, to take out the essence of the story, we don't have to become a monastic in order to practice a path, but we do need to take steps in order to cultivate ourselves. Right? So it's a very common term we hear in Buddhism, cultivation. It means developing ourselves. Maybe if we see that, I've got a bad temper. Well, when I see I've got a bad temper, I know the results of that. I annoy people and I lose friends, and people abuse me for that. That's my suffering. that I see is going to happen, is going to continue, unless I do something about it, the renunciation is turning away from that path and then trying to find a solution. Like, I need to find some way in order to deal with my anger issues or my temper. Right? So that would just be one other example. Or it could be like greed. I buy too much stuff, I hoard too much stuff, and I can see the results. So I don't have enough money, my paycheck gets burnt off before the end of the month. I have a house cluttered full of all sorts of junk that, after I buy it, 2 weeks later, I'm thinking, this is useless. I don't want it. What am I doing? I need to change my behavior, right? So to try to find some kind of method in order to deal with the forms of behavior that we have that create problems for us. And so long as we have at least the smallest amount of insight to see the results that's going to come about from that action. So that's kind of what I would say is like the spirit of renunciation, the spirit of cultivation. And then, of course, the big event in the Buddha's life, and the event that makes the Buddha, the awakening, which is really to say when he has firmly eradicated that problem, he's overcome that problem. And so, with cultivation and working on a problem, we can find solutions. And when you look at the story of the Buddha's cultivation before his awakening, it's pretty intense, the sort of things he went through. And one of the key things was this determination. It wasn't like extreme determination, right? Remember, the middle way is very much a part of that story. It's not extremism, but it is constant determination, not giving up, not quitting, not backing down. That is like one of the most critical parts of our own practice. When we're trying to improve ourselves, we're trying to improve ourselves not just for ourselves but also for our loved ones and our family and our communities. We just got to keep on going at it. We just got to keep on doing it. Don't give up. If it's a good thing, if it's a good cause, don't give up. Sometimes you have to stop and reassess, just like the Buddha as well, right? He thought he was practicing asceticism and thought it would be a solution, and he got to a point he realized it wasn't working. He had to reassess how he was doing it, but he didn't give up on his goal. Right? That's an important kind of part of that story. He was practicing the sort of self-mortification, thinking it would liberate him, but in the end he had to find the middle way to start to nourish the body. But he never gave up on the goal. The goal always remained the same. So likewise too, we need to work on our practice, developing ourselves, always keep the goal in mind, but also know that we do need to reassess is my present course of action going to lead to the goal? After we have made those changes in ourselves, then we are in kind of like, you've climbed up the steep hill, that's the hard work, and now you can kind of come down the other side. Which is where we can take the knowledge that we have and the things that we have learned and the ways in which we've developed ourselves to be of benefit to others. Right? So in the Buddha's case, of course, it was then going on to turn the wheel of Dharma to teach other people. Now, often people sort of, sometimes in Buddhist practice, people say, well, I can't teach others because I'm not enlightened myself. We don't have to be you don't have to be an Arhat or a Buddha in order to teach others about the Dharma, but we do have to at least be able to do the basic things that we want to teach people in, so even if it's something as simple as if we have upheld the 5 precepts, and maybe we don't even do that perfectly, but maybe there are certain ones that we feel that we are doing well, then we're in a position where we can share our knowledge and our experience with being able to do that with other people. Maybe 5 precepts, and maybe you think particularly that first precept, I've been really good about not harming, no violence. It might include changing my diet to become vegetarian, abstaining from all forms of violence, both physical but also intentional. Then there might be a situation whereby we could encourage other people to also avoid violence and to take an approach of using non-violent solutions to problems. If we didn't have that background ourselves, not only would we be a hypocrite, but it won't work the same. It does not have that same power. So that's just one example for the precepts, but it could again be all sorts of other things. And we know that if we're like on the receiving end of somebody trying to instruct us in something, or give us some good advice, some good life advice, we know what it feels like when we know this person knows what they're talking about. When this person says it, what they say and what they do are the same, as opposed to people that like talk the talk but don't walk the walk. So we need to then, make those changes for ourselves. We don't have to be perfect in order to be able to help others, but in what areas that we are doing pretty good, we can in turn share that knowledge with others too. So that's like the phase in the Buddha's life, his teaching of the Dharma, the turning of the wheel of Dharma. Lastly, of course, in the tale of the Buddha, we have that parinirvana. A sad part of the tale, of course, but also it's a reflection of the truths of impermanence. And it's also a really key point to consider, like legacy. Now, the Buddha's legacy, of course, was leaving his goodness, his life as this role model for others in the world. We too will grow old and we too will pass away. And we can ask ourselves, have I left this world a better place than when I came into this world? And if we've done that, then we can say we've had a good life. We've had a successful life. Of course, unlike the Buddha, we'll be back. We don't have to perfect ourselves in this life, but just so long as each and every life we make steady improvement, then one day we will reach that goal. So we don't have to be in a hurry. This goes back to, again, like this determination and steadfast practice. We don't have to be in a rush. We don't have to, go from 0 to 100 in the snap of a finger. But so long as we keep working on it, so long as we keep going in the right direction and we are persistent, one day we will attain that goal. And when we attain that goal, rather than people talking about Vesak Day as a Buddhist celebration, we too can, celebrate Buddhism not in terms of thinking of the Buddha as like this other than me role model, but celebrating Buddhism by actualizing and putting Buddhism into practice in our lives. So that's my little thoughts for Vesak Day for 2021. Wherever you may be in the world, I hope this is a good day for you. I hope that all the troubles and all the difficulties that have been taking place in the world in the last, it's almost a year and a half now. I'm sure you have gone through those difficulties. We all have, some more than others. Hope today can shed a little ray of light, a little inspiration from the Buddha. We can reflect on some of the truths that the Buddha taught us. Be a little wiser, be a little more compassionate, and in turn share that with other people, the people around us. Thank you all. I'd like to wish you all a very happy and a very blessed Vesak Day. Thank you.